Good morning, guys. This morning we are going to finish up the Prairie Train. But before we get started, I would love to know, do you remember what happened at the beginning of our story? Can somebody tell us what happened at the beginning? Great. You remember. That's right. Connor was in Ireland and he left the country with his family and decided to come to the United States. Do we remember who he left behind? Wow, look at that. You all are just brilliant this morning. He left his grandfather behind. He also was given a special treat before he left. Do we remember what that item was? Yes, he was given a boat, a toy boat. Now, what happened to that boat? Oh, yes. I was so sad too. He lost his boat. Now, before we go any further, I want to know, were you able to make any connections with Connor throughout this story? I want you to turn and talk to a family member, maybe your parent, maybe your sibling, about how you would have felt if you would have lost your toy boat that somebody special in your family gave to you. Turn and talk to them and share. Great. I have to agree. I would have felt the same way myself. Were you able to make connections with our character, Connor? Has anyone traveled to this country from another country? Do you know of a family member that's done the same thing? That's traveled from their home country to the United States, or even left their city and gone to a new city, or even a new state? Some of the same things that Connor is feeling, we all feel when we move. So Connor really isn't by himself. Even if we move from one part of the city to another part of the city, we had to say goodbye to some very important people that we knew and loved. So we have to make sure that we are able to connect with Connor. Now, I have a question for you. How do you think our story is going to end? How do you think Connor is going to behave now that he has met his grandfather in his dreams? And now that he knows that the moon is going to be his new toy. How do you think? Turn and talk. And while you're turning and talking, I'm going to go to that last part of our story. Let's take a look at some of those pictures that are in our story. This is Connor traveling on the train. And there is smoke coming out of the train. Oops. And here's the engine with Connor and his family. Here's Connor and his family at the train station where they're getting ready to travel on the Prairie Train. And here is Connor. Remember Connor from yesterday? He's looking at his boat that who gave him? You're right, his grandfather. That's his boat right here. And then here's Connor waving at the engine. He's feeling fantastic. And now he's feeling sad. Sad because he lost his boat. Here's his boat, just in the tall prairie grass. And the train is steadily moving away, steadily moving west. Have we figured out how our story is going to end? And here's Connor taking a nap, or he's going to bed because he's just so tired. He's just so, this is a new word, distraught. Say the word with me. Distraught. That means he's just so sad and so angry and so just, I lost my favorite toy. So I can understand. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. I can understand what Connor's going through because I lost something that my grandmother gave me as well to remember her by. So I totally get it. And here's Connor and the train that is acting like a boat, taking him to meet his grandfather. The train is on the water. So we're in the middle of the story, heading to the end of the story. So today we're going to figure out, how does our story end? Were you able to figure out the ending of our story? And here's Connor heading toward that shoreline to meet with his grandfather. And yep, that's his grandfather talking to him. Now Connor isn't back in Connemara. He's still on his way to the west. Now, here's the end of our story. And this is where we're going to pick up. Does anybody have an idea of how our story is going to end? Does anybody? Turn and talk if you haven't done so already. And just tell us how you think it's going to end. Is it going to end smiling? Is it going to end happy? Is it going to end feeling excited because he's in a new city? How do you think Connor is dealing with all of that? That's right, guys. He is having one of those days where he's a little excited, he's a little scared, but he's still ready to see how life is going to be in his new place. All right. Oh my gosh, Miss Horne has got to read the story. Here we go. And this is the billowing steam of smoke coming from the engine. And Connor is back here in the carriage with his family. It says, as they turned, the moon began to fade and the sun began to rise. Right before his eyes, Connor could see the waves turning into a swaying sea of grass. Now, this grass is not a sea. It's not wet. It's dry. But when something sways, like Miss Horne is doing, we're swaying, we're moving. Swaying means simply moving from side to side. So that sea of grass just means it's a lot of grass out on a flat piece of land, and it looks kind of like water when it moves. That's all. Now, there we're back on the prairie. So that means they've gone away from the water, and the train is acting like a train and no longer a boat. So Connor and his family are on their way further west. Let's see how the story ends. Connor is looking out the window. Everybody else is slowly waking up, getting ready for their final days on the train. So here we go. Early morning sunlight streamed and started to flood the carriage, waking the passengers. Everyone was glad to see Connor feeling better. All he needed was a good rest, said Connor's mother. Was that what he needed? What do you think he needed? That's right. He needed a visit from his grandfather to know that everything was okay, that it was all right that he lost the boat because he had another way of seeing his grandfather. Do we remember what way he was able to see his grandfather? What way was that? That's right. It was the moon, the silvery light of the moon. Let's take a look. Connor's looking out the window, and the train is steadily puffing on its way. Connor looked out the window. He could see the engines up ahead, pulling the train steadily westward. As the morning sun climbed higher and higher in the sky, Connor and the Prairie train moved forward together. They were no longer separate. They were moving forward together. What do you think Connor was hoping to see when he got to his new city? That's right. He was hoping to see those boats. Who told him about those boats in the new city? Great job remembering. His grandfather told him about those boats. The end. So, as they're moving forward, did we ever figure out where he was going to go or what city he was going to go? Remember, he's coming from the island of Connemara. He's going across the ocean from one sea, the Atlantic Ocean, across the land of the U.S., all the way to the Pacific Ocean on the other side of the United States. So that's what they mean when they say from sea to sea, the Atlantic to the Pacific. And that's what he did. He traveled across the U.S. to get to his new city of San Francisco. Great. All right, guys, you had a thinking job for me. And that thinking job was to tell me, what did you think was going to happen at the end of the story? Did you get your answer right? Did you share your answer with somebody? Remember to submit your answers in Google Classroom. And tomorrow I will have some questions for you. And I can't wait to hear your answers about our story, The Prairie Train. And since we are finishing up tomorrow, we're going to have a free read on Friday. So get ready, guys. All right, for now, I say goodbye and have a great morning.